Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific time zone, and it is time for our weekly community meeting. I'm your host, Chris Caligari, and of course, we record every one of these weekly meetings and post to YouTube. And allow me to share my screen so we can look at our notes. Okay, everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Good. Forgive me, I'm still fairly new with Zoom, and there's so many controls that you don't normally see as a regular user. Hey, slowly the agenda fills in. And the link to our document is posted to chat if folks would like to follow along and add their attendance. Okay, let's begin with any introductions for this week. Is there anybody new on the call this week that would like to say hello?
Hi, it's my first time here. I'm working on the CMV KubeVirt monitoring from Red Hat. And I'm here to discuss what Roman added to the agenda about breaking metrics changes.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, glad to have you.
Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's the only new face that I see on our list. Thank you for introducing yourself, Shirley. And Roman has the first agenda point. Roman, please proceed.
Yeah, so I edited it here for Shirley. So basically we, some PRs got merged, which are changing the Prometheus metrics. So renaming them and splitting them and so on. And just one word here is that we don't provide the same stability guarantee for our metrics like we do for our Kubernetes API. But one note here in general to be cautious here too, because if someone uses KubeVirt reasonably, that person has to look into monitoring too. And if we change just some things, we probably break at least some dashboards, maybe some alarm alerts. And I mostly just want to ensure that if we do such changes in the future, that this gets announced in the mailing list, like Shirley did yesterday, and that there is some time that people can respond to that. Yeah, so basically that there is a visible discussion. That's my point here. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a thought on that. I definitely think that our metrics need some cleanup with regard to naming and things like that. And we can take a more critical eye, and that's important to do. I'd like to get it to a point where it's dependable, though, and it's consistent. So I guess I'm curious what you all think about making this I guess an API at some point that we will have guarantees around. I understand we don't have guarantees right now, but I think it would be beneficial for us to get to the point where we do have guarantees. Does that sound reasonable?
Definitely for me.
What would we need to get there? Do we have like a target of, we want to use this kind of consistency in our naming or anything like that? Like what? I want to make sure that we're moving in that direction. If that means we have to come up with some sort of policy around how metrics are introduced and how we guarantee they're consistent with our other metrics and things like that to make sure that we don't have to back out of changes later. What I guess I'm asking.
So Shirley, I think you had some thoughts here regarding to synchronizing it with Kubernetes naming, right? Maybe you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, I think we should definitely, when we introduce a new metric, look at what we have in Kubernetes already for consistency. For example, in the change that I suggested now, the receive, transmit is in the name of the metric in Kubernetes, and we added it as a type label. This is confusing when you try to use the metric, and it's in Kubernetes. It's true for nodes metrics. It's for container metrics. In all of those levels, the naming is consistent. So we should try and do the same with our prefix.
So this would mean that we make a metric then kind of stable when it follows the Kubernetes convention and turns out to be useful, something like this.
Yes, I think so.
David?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I guess I would like to maybe see something written. Maybe we already have this. Sorry if I'm saying something that already exists. But yeah, maybe just formally kind of write this down in one of our like docs, readmes. So we have a reference to point people to when they try to add metrics and we say, well, this is what we're going for. So we can kind of keep everyone on the same page there.
Surely maybe you can do a small docs PR in KubeVirt where you summarize a few of these points, which would be used for decision making. And then we can go from there, I guess.
And the email thread with examples, no problem.
That sounds great.
Excellent. Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything super verbose. It just pretty brief. I mean, as brief as you feel like making it.
A few bullet points, 1 or 2 examples, if necessary, to them, and then yeah, that's definitely good enough.
Okay.
I just took a look at the metrics section and user guide, and that page looks pretty slim. So if you could add some to the user guide, that would be awesome.
Yes, it needs to refactoring. It doesn't look okay at the moment. There are duplications there.
Yeah, the user guide needs so much work.
Yeah.
I'm trying to rally the troops to help me out. we have a lot of issues, but not enough hands to do the work. Not enough time either. Okay. Are we all set?
I think so. Regarding to your PRs, now we have the situation that some of them are renamed to the new way and some are not yet renamed. I think it probably makes sense to be consistent with Kubernetes, and I wasn't sure before if we should revert the changes and discuss it before. I don't know what others are thinking, or if we just agree that the Kubernetes making makes sense and this should probably just be up a few more days in the mailing list and then merged. I don't know.
Well, and
so the merge changes are yet not in any release. There is one PR left. We can block the release until this is in and no one has issues with changing them on a short notice. Or I don't know. Radek, David, any thoughts on that?
No.
So, okay, I mean, then let's just ensure that they are really following the Kubernetes version. I don't think you have too much objections then against this change, and let's wait until next week, Monday, and see if some objections are coming and then proceeding. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I like the idea of, well, so we're going to cut a release tomorrow. So it doesn't, anything that it's not going in today. It really doesn't matter. We have a month to back out of this before a release ever gets made.
Yeah, it's a mixture right now. Parts are merged, parts are not merged.
Oh.
So there's one PR, there is one PR left to flip it completely over to the new naming. And yeah, so we're in a mixed state now.
Do we have any breaking changes coming in in tomorrow's release or release cut?
Apart from that, I'm not aware of any. So there are metrics breaking changes. Apart from that, I'm not aware of any.
There are metrics. Okay. It is what it is. All right.
so we're going to hold till Monday after the release.
So what I would avoid is breaking them 2 times. So breaking them now with the release tomorrow and then breaking them again necessarily.
Okay.
I think there is another PR that touches that area, at least being reviewed. So I don't know, maybe we should somehow correlate that no new PRs are changing this convention.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I'm also out next week to Easter. Who's there next week even to coordinate this?
I'll be here.
Okay.
I'm pretty unfamiliar with this topic. I can try to get up to speed on this.
Yeah. So it seems like, as I definitely know about one PR, Vladik mentioned the second PR. So we would have, and so 2 are merged and 2 are open from that perspective. So we should probably either wait with the release and take the two PRs in when we think the naming is good, or we should revert the 2 PRs and then maybe reintroduce them in the next release again.
I see. So the idea would be,
Sorry.
you're, oh man, that's unfortunate. Who's Did he mute himself? Okay. All right, let me make sure I get this straight. So our options here are we can revert those two PRs, potentially just revert them in the release branch. That's all we would have to do.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what we should do. Now I'm thinking about it. Let's just revert it in the release branch and keep moving forward. And so we can cut our release exactly the way it is now. We'll do a PR just to the release branch to reverse those breaking changes. And then in the 0.41, we'll do all the breaking changes that we know all at once. Does that make sense?
It makes sense for me at least.
Okay.
I think that I should mention is that it's another patch that we need to pass CI, and it takes a lot of time to merge that.
Yeah. What I've seen here is, I think we briefly discussed it. You don't have to run retest until everything is green, and then only then ask someone to look at the PRs. So you really don't have to do that. So, and if the PR is good, we will approve it. And yeah, there's this unfortunate retest cycle, but then the bot will do it for us. So yeah.
And we have a week before we are going to actually cut the official release. So what we do is we're going to cut the release branch tomorrow, first of the month. And then sometime a week or so afterwards, we'll actually cut the official 0.41.0. So we have some time. It's not a I don't know, super urgent thing.
Sounds good to me. Then we have a release which has no breaking change and which has do all metrics changes for the next release together.
Perfect.
Hi, and this is Shweta. The second PR that Ladek mentioned is mine. I just wanted to understand. So did you say that it's not going to go into the release that's coming in, or is it? It's not going into the release branch now, but it might make it to the one that's cut next week.
So
Is your PR still open?
Yes, it's open.
Unless it gets merged in the next 24 hours, it will be in the 0.41 release. We could put a hold on it just to make, I don't know if it's approved and everything already. That might be wise if it has breaking metric changes in it.
Oh,
Okay.
it's still under review.
Okay.
It's still under review, yeah.
I'm not concerned about it.
Okay.
So David, speaking of breaking changes, has there been any more work regarding the refactoring of KubeVirt to upstream?
Refactoring of KubeVirt.
Yeah, weren't we thinking about pulling KubeVirt from Fedora rather than RHEL?
Oh, that's right. So we talked about that, and it's kind of a complicated scenario because we were taking a special package that was being built. It was a derivative of RHEL, actually, and it had some RHEL machine types that don't exist in Fedora. So that compatibility would break us if we decide to move forward with the Fedora builds rather than continuing with the RHEL-based builds. I think what we landed on, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong because I've lost track of this discussion, is that we are going to consume CentOS streams once that becomes available to us. But we're not quite there yet. Is that still the case? Maybe Roman or Vladek would know.
Yeah, I think so. We need to wait until at least we know how CentOS stream would look like, at least from my point of view.
Okay. So we're still kind of stuck in this state where we need those custom builds to be created for us off the RHEL derivative until we can sort out the CentOS stream delivery. And I don't even know how that's being tracked at this point, or what the timeline looks like for that. I will say that I think that the decision has been made that we aren't going to switch to Fedora.
Right. Yeah, that seems like a big one that's holding us back from a 1.0 release.
Yep, we would have to, whatever decision, if it was going to break compatibility with KubeVirt, would have to be made before we go 1.0. And we would want to make sure that this is a long-term sustainable solution for us that we won't have to back out of, because that also breaks us. So don't want to flip-flop. Do it once if we have to do it.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry to hijack the next agenda item, but David, it is you.
Yeah, so just wanted to briefly throw out that I'm working on a design process document. So this would be something, I linked the document here. It would be a process, it's an optional process. So I kind of took inspiration from what the KEP review process is, so the Kubernetes Enhancements, and also the OpenStack spec. And I saw what they did well and what they did kind of not so well. And I tried to create a process for us that enables us without encumbering us. So the idea with this design process is it gives people an entry point that if they have a feature that they want, they know that there's a process that they can go through to get it looked at and to get feedback on it before they actually execute code. That said, this is not mandatory. So if somebody wants to come to us and just deliver a bunch of code, that's fine. And we'll take a look at that as well. But that's a risk that people are going through if they're not really intimately familiar with KubeVirt architecture in the community, that they might have spent a lot of time working on something that won't get accepted. So it's kind of the design process is a way for people to gain confidence that they're going to execute on design that will be accepted. And that's it. It's not, I definitely don't want to put more red tape in front of people who are already confident in what they're doing or anything like that. But it's also a way, this is another thing I think we struggled with a little bit, for us to capture designs that spread across multiple repos. So sometimes we have kind of a high level thing that we want to solve. And it might touch, for example, CDI and CDI's integration with KubeVirt, and perhaps KubeVirt's integration with something like our common templates or something. So that's 3 repos that this idea spans over. The design process will give us a way to kind of coordinate between those different teams, make sure we land on a high-level plan that everyone agrees on. So there would be an acknowledgement from repo owners across those 3 teams. They agree that this is a good plan to execute on before it would get merged. So it's just, again, trying to enable us, trying to give us a little bit less friction when we're trying to do things, and then we have to keep making revisions over and over again. Maybe we can use this process to be more efficient. Review it if you have time. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you, David. And of course, I think I put a note on there about getting that document merged into the community repo.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think it belongs as a README once we've kind of made sure that everyone agrees on the concept. And then I'll probably try to pilot this. And I was going to make a template that people could use for their design documents. I'll make a template, and then I'll try to actually use the template for a design. And that'll give everyone kind of a path that they can go through if they're interested in going through this. So that's to come after we've kind of decided that it looks good, the initial proposal here.
Sounds good. Okay, open floor. Roman has the first open floor item.
So just a short heads up. I think I even talked last time about C groups already, that some work is going on there. I can't remember, but at least it's now merged. Vasily did great work there. There are some remaining things which we're not yet testing, like Discord plug and a few more exotic networking configurations. but the overall support looks pretty good. So I hope that when we close the final gaps on these few missing features, we can officially announce in the C groups v2 work, but it's great if someone has a machine or a cluster ready to try it out, feel free. So yeah, that's it.
Is Kubernetes itself supporting C groups too?
Yeah, it is,
Oh, wow.
but it's still not so common. So the most common, it's still more common to have C groups v1. But it's great that we are starting to add support before it's the more common choice.
Yeah, that's great. That's a big pain point when in our labs. And we struggle whether or not we want that part documented. So now we get to review all of our labs.
Yeah, there's even a few runtimes out there. I use a C run for C groups v2. It's really cool.
Yeah, I have a document on the back end on what operating system platforms, what versions of Kubernetes and what versions of KubeVirt actually work. And it got quite lengthy. I think I'm up to something like 40 rows in that document with all of these different combinations of versions and settings. So I had a real hard time getting started with KubeVirt last year.
Yeah, I hope that it will finally get easier. At least when the next release is cut now, we should have a latest file on GCS and just where we then end up with a 3-liner repeatable one for at least deploying and starting it.
Great. Yeah,
That may at least keep the user guide up to date. Not sure if it makes the rest easier.
I have new guys onboarding right now that he didn't even get started before he hit a bug with our operator YAML. That was,
on 39.1?
yeah.
But that was really the first time I remember for 1 or 2 years that that the released YAMLs did not work. It's unfortunate, but they normally work.
Yeah, he's brand new. Like he's only been using the software for a day.
For what it's worth, I guess when talking about C groups, at least, Debian variants, so that Arch, all of that support C groups v2. So hopefully that the matrix doesn't expand in this sense.
Yeah, we definitely need to start looking at some other operating systems aside Fedora. The people that I come across, every week I come across another organization that is using a different OS, whether it's BSD or Ubuntu, etc., etc. Sony PlayStation is Gen 2. And they're monstrous. It's a worldwide scaled out environment, and they absolutely refuse to use any Red Hat slanted software. So I want those logos on our website. We got to start building for alternative bases, and that's why I keep asking about the libvirt topic. So there's huge potential here to get KubeVirt out into the wild, out into the world.
Hey Roman, I got a question for you. Out of curiosity, what are the changes that KubeVirt had to go through to support C groups v2?
So it's mostly container disks, for instance, was an important change for us, and we pick up some values from various C groups. It was just minor things like when we have code for a few features which just detects the C groups and the slices where stuff is in, and mostly just the detection code had to be changed because the paths are different. I would have to go through the pull request now to tell you the details, but It's actually not that much.
Okay,
mostly
yeah, I was just
just
curious
about-
if it was.
It's
Yeah, I
really
was just
just
curious
about
on the major,
detecting, mostly about detecting different paths from from other places, and then doing the same thing as always.
I see.
So luckily, no surprises there actually. Oh, yeah, one or two, like some permission issues, which Vasily also got resolved and in run C directly already. It was pretty nice.
Gotcha.
Okay, let's move on to the pull requests worthy of discussion section. And we've already talked about the metrics API. So does anybody have any other pull requests that they would like to discuss? No? Okay. Bug scrub time. David, you want to run that?
I can't. I still can't share my screen. It's not that I don't want to share my screen. It's that I'd have. There's no guarantees that it'll work.
I can share mine if it fails.
I'll talk.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm down. Could you stop sharing, Chris?
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, Peter, how are you?
All right. Okay, David, opening the first one. PVCs for the same VM we're getting assigned to different nodes. Should we just go forward and comment that it should be opened on CDI?
So this looks like a host path. All right, so what happens here is if they have two PVCs using host path provisioner, that they could be assigned to two different nodes, meaning that the VM that consumes those would never get scheduled. That's interesting.
It's a good question. Now, we should cover that now with wait for first consumer, but actually we missed the case with multiple PVCs.
Right.
Yeah, that could really be.
This is actually going to be a bug in KubeVirt. So I would, let me think who was working on wait for first consumer, and we can assign.
That was Bartosz.
Yeah, assign it to him.
Awesome, okay. Sweet, all right. Second one. When somebody tries to console into failed VM, it just gets stuck.
It's pretty simple.
And there's a PR open for it. That's how it should be. It looks like a tiny one.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. If it's failed, don't try the thing. Okay.
All right, so if somebody wants to take a look, please do. And we can go forward. You're unable to create a VM. Critical network error.
This looks like another case of SE-Linux is not present, and we had this bug where if SE-Linux was not present, we failed. So 0.39.1 release should fix that.
Okay, so this should be resolved.
But we got reports today that the 0.39.1 release YAML is broken somehow. And the image, it looks like the images were pushed 2 times, and the SHA-SUM from the first push with that disappeared. So we have to look into that, but it should be fixed in 39.1.
Ah, okay. And do we have a duplicate somewhere, or was it already closed?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, this one is, for instance, one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That like it.
Oh yeah, and here we have the bug regarding the broken release.
Okay, so
What did we do? I saw something about this, but I haven't got to look into it. So it just doesn't work, the new release that I.
So
right?
it looks like the images so on Docker it would still work, but on GUI not. So it seems like we had an issue that the images were pushed 2 times and built 2 times and pushed 2 times. And the first push was for the release, where we also released the YAML, and then the images got pushed again with a rebuild with another digest. And if you change tags in GUI, the digests which were referenced on the tag before are immediately deleted.
Okay.
And now we have a broken YAML there.
So what I think probably happened is maybe, well, I wonder if Prow is competing with Travis now, because Travis is still enabled for version 0.39.
Yeah, it looks to me too like it's an issue with the transition of the release procedure. Yeah.
I'm going to mark this release as not being the latest anymore, just to keep people from using it.
We're stuck with
maybe make it a pre-release again on GitHub.
Yep.
So that people.
And I'm going to send out a
Yeah.
email thread about.
And so it is a duplicate of this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. This one is from Federico. Panic in API server logs during end-to-end test runs.
Yeah, about 5 days ago, we started noticing these panics. Not sure yet if they are harmful at all, but yeah, they show up. We have the link there to see how they look like. It's like a timeout. Maybe we are not closing a connection or something like that.
So this is being looked into, right?
Yeah. So that's progress.
Talked about this one. Let me just mark it as separate. Virt operator refreshing back off. No comments here. That's
What's the version?
that uses Alpha 3, which is obsoleted, is it?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see which release this is. Is it
they have,
039? They say.
it's applying the demo repository, which I'm not sure if it's being maintained.
Oh, so you mean it could be, yeah, but no matching kind. Yeah. Wait, that's interesting. We 1 alpha. David, shouldn't we 1 alpha 3 still be recognized?
Yes.
So, because here the report says that it's not recognized.
We specifically test this. Let me.
So maybe, the operator is crash looping. They may never have been registered. That could be.
That's most accurate.
Yeah. So, and it's 039, we would need more insights on what it is crash looping.
Okay, let's see what they wrote down. Good thing about the bugs. The same happens on hole 37. There are.
And it's running on CentOS 7.
What is running? Like the, there it is.
Will it still work on CentOS 7?
Yeah, we don't do it. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah,
there shouldn't be anything.
Well, there are several things that are depending.
There should at least be nothing in CentOS 7 which should stop a successful install, and he's already failing on the install. So the install should really not.
And it's failing to get something from the API server. This may be.
Error determining cluster type. Okay. I was wondering when the steps. Yeah, let's see what he gets there. That would be interesting. It may be that he can't access the public. There are some public APIs which everyone can access in a Kubernetes cluster, and we use them to detect the cluster type. Maybe there is no. It's not clear from that perspective if it's related to this API endpoint as such, that something is configured differently there, or it's a timeout. Yeah, I mean, it can be that this API endpoint is some. Yeah, the reason really seems to be he has to check if he can reach from a pod the API server basically.
Gotcha. Okay. So they would just kernel the same thing, right?
Yeah.
That may make okay.
And he puts something 5339. Let me just return. There may be a networking issue, and his pods can't access the node network. What I assume that where I assume this IP is coming from. But
he's going to need a -- insecure, right?
Say that again.
Is that curl going to need a -- insecure for an IP?
Yes, probably. What's the short for it?
yeah. Or -k, -l, -k is also right.
Because it makes so much sense.
A K or what?
yeah, like the short version of the flag.
But that's why I remember it, because it makes so much sense.
It's muscle memory now. We'll never be able to change it.
Okay, let's start with this.
Yeah.
It's info. All right. Support secret v2 in KubeVirt. Merged PR. So it's still in progress because we need to confirm that everything still works, right?
Yeah. This was I asked Vasily to create this follow-up issue.
Gotcha.
For
Okay.
remaining things.
Sweet. Some operator unit tests are flaky.
Yeah, that's something which needs to be fixed.
Okay. Right. It feels like every week somebody wants to resize disks. Every time we go through this. Yes.
I guess we have a main tracker issue for that now.
I think so. Which one would I be like? Maybe this one or this one. This would be a CDI bug.
I guess, well, especially for data volumes. I mean, if it's for PVCs, it would be in our area. And the question is still if we want to do it, but.
So again, it's not a CDI issue.
I guess it depends on what we're looking. So if we look at plain PVCs, which you can use, right, without data volume, then it would be a matter of resizing the PVC directly, and there would not per se CDI be involved. Or am I wrong there? Michael, is it still there?
Yeah, so if you stop a VM and everything is configured to work correctly in your cluster, you should just be able to edit the size.
But it's about hot resize.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I think I don't think you can do it hot.
I wonder if that's possible.
I haven't seen it in almost any storage provider I've worked with between Ceph and Gluster and other variants that have CSI components now. That's like allows for resizing while the pod is actually using the block, or in the case of the VM.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen it either. It could be possible with some provisioners, but.
Okay. So you, Michael, you also mean that while also from independent of Virt, you mean from PVCs?
Yeah.
Perspective, you can only resize them.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean, I haven't tried every provisioner, but it's
okay. And Sam, is that also what you said? I couldn't fully understand you.
There could be certain provisioners that support this hot resize. I haven't encountered any of them, but
okay. Okay, then
it would be good to get more info from this person to understand what storage they're using actually.
Is that even a word? Provision. Yep. Stupid spell check. All right. So yeah, let's just check with them. Just have something to start with. Okay. And so these CDI issues were not like hot resizes.
Yeah, that's not hot resize, yeah.
Catch. Okay, makes sense then. Can skip flaky tests. This is also flaky test tracker.
Okay, yeah, that's also something we see them. We see amount errors from time to time, probably related to the NFS provider tests. Radek looked into that. I think Radek is already, yeah, Radek is still there. I think Radek, we came to the conclusion to maybe best just remove the NFS test since they're anywhere kind of overlapping with the other storage test. Radek?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You said
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'll just, for the sake of trash, mark this accepted. Okay. SE Linux. Disabled SE Linux detected as permissive mode.
This is again an instance of
Is this the same as the
I'm not
previous?
entirely sure. We could ask if his issue is that it does not work when SE Linux is disabled.
I'm not sure if I followed the question. But
I mean, we're definitely not doing that magic. It sounds like a good idea to do this if this is more reliable.
sorry, I'm a little lost. So what do you suggest we ask them?
Yeah, if his problem is that KubeVirt does not work on a system where no SE Linux is present, because then it could be our 039 issue.
Maybe this is about the way we detect if SE Linux is even enabled.
Yeah, and you can write that if that is not the issue, this may be a good way to, this may be a good improvement on how to detect it. Yeah, just to keep the door open for that, because
Thanks. The case.
perfect.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, and with that, we are at the end of the slot for this call. So, how far did we get into the past? 8 days ago. Oh, that's pretty nice, I guess.
Yeah, that's really nice. Thank you, Peter, again for leading this.
Thanks all for whispering in my ear, because otherwise I wouldn't know what to type down.
Okay, then.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. One of these days I have to learn how to drive that bug triage portion. Maybe one of you can show me offline. Okay, it is 8 a.m. Pacific, and we're all finished with the weekly meeting. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us, and we will see you next week.
See you. Thank
Thanks
you.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.